when I was in college around 21, my grandfather passed and ended up giving me an inheritance, and I put that towards my mom's mortgage, and it actually was able to pay it off. She was that close to paying off our childhood home.
You paid your parents' house.
Yeah.
Aaron, thanks so much for being here. I truly appreciate the support for the channel.
Yeah.
So how old are you?
I'm 29.
Nice. And where are you originally from?
I grew up in Gretna, Nebraska.
Perfect. So how long have you been living in Arizona?
I've been in Arizona for about 5 years. Hit 5 years last month.
Perfect. And what is your favorite thing about Arizona?
So I'm Native American. I like the big Native American population in Tucson, and I have relatives in Albuquerque who are fairly close, so I like the proximity to them as opposed to Nebraska, so I can see them a lot more.
I definitely relate to that as well. You know, when I want to go visit my family, it is shorter, you know, living here in Arizona. How long of a trip was it from Nebraska, you know, compared to Arizona?
Oh, to Albuquerque, 2 days versus 1 day.
Huge difference,
Like 18 hours versus 8 hours or 6 hours.
You get to see them more often then.
Yeah.
That's good. Alrighty, so what do you do for a living?
So I'm a systems safety engineer. I basically learn about a product and how it functions and interfaces, and then determine how it can fail, specific ways it can fail, how to mitigate those failures, and document them so they don't hurt the wrong people.
That's cool. So how long have you been doing this for?
With that title, basically the entire 5 years I've been in Arizona.
So that was kind of like your first job right after college?
Yeah, that's correct.
Do you enjoy what you currently do?
It has its ups and downs. Yeah.
What is like the most challenging thing about it?
Probably when I'm working like 3, 4 or more different products at once, and they all have deadlines at once, and it's hard to split priorities and appease everyone with a safety analysis or the like. That's probably the most challenges I've had recently.
Wow. So you have to be really good at managing your time, making sure that you organize every single product like you mentioned, and then just deliver. Wow. What social class were you growing up?
Well, we were definitely poor, single parent household. My mom was just widowed, so she raised us on her own. She was a physician, and my dad was an engineer, so we started out as pretty good, but circumstances necessitated a lot less. So my mom became a stay-at-home mom for us, and money was pretty tight most of my childhood.
Is that why you became an engineer as well? Just to follow the legacy of your father? Or it was more because you really liked, you know, innovation, numbers?
I like to think I got to engineering on my own for the bulk of my later grade school years. I had wanted to be a doctor like my mom, and it wasn't until kind of later high school with doing activities like I was part of our rocket team and doing stuff with my hands like that I kind of realized I like that a lot more than medical stuff.
So you did mention that, you know, growing up, you guys were lower class in a way. What were some other challenges that you faced growing up?
Oh, well, money was always an issue, and it was pretty apparent most times. Like, uh, at multiple points we were at risk of losing our house, and uh, my mom let us know that, or when I was like elementary school years, I remember asking like, "Oh, how much do you have in your account?" And it's like literally nothing, like less than $100. I'm like, okay, I never asked about that again, and just I always knew that we couldn't go out and buy stuff or go on trips like a lot of my classmates could, which I accepted at the time. That's just normal.
You knew all of that, but you know that was going on. Would your family talk about money in general?
It was kind of hard to avoid. Um, so yes, I would say we did talk about money out of necessity, like, and that we couldn't afford stuff, or I mean, in certain scenarios, it would be my mom teaching us about money to like she got us these toy ATMs to keep our birthday money. And I mean, we didn't have much birthday money. We didn't have an allowance or anything, but it was a way to like, we got to mimic what my mom did at an adult ATM and kind of see our money sit there, or what little a kid would have.
Well, that is quite cool, you know. I think all as kids, we all got to play with like fake money, but doing that exercise of actually having, you know, an ATM for you to put your money in there, gave you that knowledge of like, okay, you know, the more that I keep here, the more I will have, the more I will get to spend.
Yeah.
Or how do you see it?
And it was always, I'll caveat, but it was always kind of an unwritten rule that if my mom was in a dire financial situation that she could take from our ATMs, then we just kind of accepted that.
Wow, that's like, you know, at an early age, you got to help and support the family. Even though it was money that, you know, pretty much your parents or mom gave you, you still have to put it aside,
Yeah,
knowing that sometimes you have to give it back.
in certain situations, yeah.
Can you recall your first interaction with money?
Well, besides those ATMs, the first time I kind of had a big double take was, I think for my 11th or 12th birthday, I got a $40 Subway gift card, and I was like, oh man, like I can like buy like 8 footlongs with this or something like on my own. But then next time I went to Subway, my mom was like, oh, like you got the gift card now you can pay for us. And I was like, what? And it ended up costing like $32 of that. So I'm like what?
It all went away with the first one.
Yeah. So then, I mean, that helped me realize like what things actually cost in real life. So I think that was useful.
And especially in your case, it was more for like a whole family thing, right? Because, you know, you could have seen it as like, oh, it is just for me. You know, if I want to buy, like you mentioned, you know, a Subway sandwich,
Yeah.
it would just be like $5. And then next time I'll have like, you know, an extra $5, you know, so on and so forth until you would get your 8 maybe. Cause I mean, back then was like the $5 footlook.
Yeah.
But in your case, from the get go, it was more about like, okay, this is what it cost for a whole family.
Yeah.
And wow.
And extras too.
Getting chips and
Chips and drink. Yeah.
Let's see. What is the best financial advice you've ever received, and who gave you that advice?
I would consider that. So this is in my adult life. I always try to minimize my expenses where I can, my living expenses. And a coworker recommended I look into house hacking or real estate investing, where you live in the property and rent out the others. So I started looking into that like as soon as I started at my current job and was able to do it. 2 years later, and it's helped a lot with my living expenses. It's basically brought it down to zero, and if it's even a bit over that.
Wow. Now, on the other side of the coin, what is the worst financial advice you've ever received?
Yeah, worst financial advice, I'd probably say you can afford it by various, and mostly other coworkers or peers talking about like a hobby or something like oh you're a full-fledged engineer now, you can afford that, like talking about a mountain bike or a drone or something like that, like multi-$1,000 things. I'm like, yeah, I can afford that, but that's a big chunk of my living expenses, and I'm a pretty frugal person, and I try to minimize my living expenses. So like that advice takes in a lot of assumptions to the person you're giving it to.
Did you actually get to spend some money on your rockets? Like you mentioned that you used to do that as a hobby, or?
Yeah, I do that. Not that much. Usually under $100 each time I launch.
So you mentioned that you're quite frugal. Like how frugal are you?
Probably frugal to a fault in some situations. I'll sometimes sacrifice the enjoyment to save a buck on like when going out to eat, or like I'll get like a less good thing because like, oh well, that's a lot cheaper than like the big thing on the menu, or like on a vacation I could go with the cheap motel that has bad reviews, but like, oh, it's still a motel room, like. And I'm kind of working on that, like balancing personal enjoyment and not overspending. But I've definitely been on the caring about saving money or spending as least as possible.
When you go to the grocery store, would you say that you have two options, to get brand and generic? You'll usually grab the generic one, or for certain instances, you actually go ahead and do the brand.
Generic all the time. Cheapest store all the time. Walmart, I go there all the time.
Do you ever splurge on yourself?
Every so often, yeah.
What would you consider splurging, or what is an item that you purchase that you're like, oh wow, this is something that I decided to get just for me?
Yeah. Earlier this year, I went to a Brazilian steakhouse and spent like $60 on a meal. I'd consider that splurging.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
What was your favorite type of meat there?
Probably they had some kind of beef that had like a bread coating on the outside. It was I forget what it was.
Kind of like a Wellington beef.
Kind of, yeah.
Oh wow. Oh, that sounds delicious.
I didn't eat the whole weekend before that. It's like I'm gonna go there hungry and get my money's worth.
You remind me of we had a friend in high school that he went through something similar. His parents got a gift card for Red Robin, and he didn't eat the entire day because he knew that, once he would get there, he was going to eat as many fries as he could. And he was telling us all about it. So kind of reminds me of that. So now, kind of like going back a little bit, you mentioned the house hacking. So, I mean, besides that, or would that be the only one? What is the best financial decision that you've ever made?
Yeah, I was going between house hacking and one other. Since I already mentioned the house hacking, I'll go with when I was in college around 21, my grandfather passed and ended up giving me an inheritance, and I put that towards my mom's mortgage, and it actually was able to pay it off. She was that close to paying off our childhood home.
You paid your parents' house.
Yeah.
How many people can actually say that? You know, it's like I've had people that's like their dream, you know, to support their parents to that level. So
Yeah. And it felt really good. Like I could help our household out in a big way like that.
how did you do it? Did you went to the bank and paid it, and then you just gave your mom? Like how is that process? When you told her like, hey, you just went to the bank, paid it off, and then after that you just walked in like, hey, you know, like, you don't have a mortgage anymore, or walk us through the process.
Yeah, it was, well, it was from a sale of a homestead that got split up by the siblings. And so it came into my uh, bank account by a wire transfer. I was at grad school in Boulder, Colorado. I had to physically go in and request I think it was yeah, another wire transfer to my mom's bank in Omaha, Nebraska. And I was on the phone with her the whole time, like making sure I had her account information right. She was there to receive it. And then once it got into her account, she just applied it to the, actually, no, she went into her bank in Omaha and paid it off in person just to confirm it closed out the mortgage. And yeah.
That is awesome. Now, I mean, you know, before we even started the interview, you said something that really touched me. Can you repeat what you said?
Oh, yeah.
For your...
So I'm Native American. A big thing in our culture is that, like in normal, when the parents take care of the kids when they're young, but then we reverse it when the parents get older. The kids, we want to help our parents out as much as we can too. So paying off my mom's mortgage was my first big step in helping her as an adult.
That is very, very inspiring,
Yeah,
very powerful.
Felt good.
So going back into the house hacking, tell us more about that. Someone gave you that advice, and then
Yeah.
you actually applied it. Because, you know, one thing is just to know that that's an option, but another one is to actually go ahead and do it. So tell us how you did it. I mean, that's quite impressive, especially at a young age.
Yeah, it was a long process. My coworker put the bug in my ear, and then I started doing my own research, joining forums, listening to podcasts, a book here and there. I found a local group in Tucson, people who also do house hacking. I made contacts with actually my coworker was already working with a realtor who was familiar with the house hacking concept. So he connected me with him, and then we started basically looking at, well, after we got to know each other, looking at filters on the MLS. So anytime I was specifically looking for a four-plex, ideally a 2, 3, or four-plex, so that I could live in one unit and rent out the other. So I had filters set on that. And in the meantime, I got pre-qualified for a mortgage and kind of found an idea of what I needed to save up for that. And then I just doubled down in my savings account. I kind of had to pause some contributions to my retirement accounts during that time, just trying to shove as much as I could into the house fund to get ready for that. And then with each property that came on my filters, I would run the numbers. I called it. I basically filled out a spreadsheet of the rents and expenses and see if it made sense for me to buy for house hacking. And there weren't a lot that did. So it took a while to find one that I was comfortable buying, basically. So it took more than 2 years, start to finish.
Once you get the property, how difficult was it to find roommates? And what were you looking for? Because we see a lot that, you know, someone rents a house and it gets destroyed, or they don't pay, or, you know, 1,000, you know, other reasons why, you know, they kind of like in a way end up regretting doing it. But what was your criteria to like for a person to live in one of your units?
Well, when I got my closed on my fourplex, I inherited three tenants, and there was one open for me to live into. So I actually didn't have to worry about that initially. About a year later, some of them did choose to move out. One of them was good. One of them kind of left not a mess, just some smells of smoke in the walls, marijuana smoke. So I took some effort to remove that.
What is your next move? Do you want to buy another property? Do you still live in that unit?
Yeah, I still live there. A big challenge for me is my own inaction. I know that's very solvable, but it's true. When those tenants moved out, I was like, oh, I'll fix this up myself. And I would come up with a plan like, oh, I need to buy this tool. Like, oh, I need to cut a new piece for that wall. So I bought the saw and stuff, but then it sat there for like 6 months to a year and nothing happened. I'm not making rent on it. And so what I ended up doing is I hired a property management company to finally get those units rented out and get around my procrastination, basically.
That's great. I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, but yeah, the plan is to get a second one and also live in it in Tucson, get the same benefits, and hopefully push my living expenses even lower.
You can even retire early by doing that.
Yeah, that was the goal with that.
Oh,
I didn't set a specific year in mind, like go retire at 40, but it puts me more in that direction, and I use the education and plans set forth by people who are pursuing financial independence, retire early, basically.
They're, what do they call it? Fire, I guess.
Yeah.
Now, what is the worst financial decision you ever made?
So for that one, I'd probably go with a car decision. It wasn't all that bad. It still ended up working out, but I had never driven until I came to Tucson, and I didn't have a car outside of just my mom had her car. We only had one car growing up because that's all we needed and could afford. So when I knew I needed a car here, I had pretty short notice. It's like, oh crap, I gotta get a car. So me and my mom, we weighed our options. I could try to find a used one, like on the used car market, but I wouldn't know how bad it was, and I would need it like within a month and to work within a month, so that held a lot of risk. Or my mom's car, she had an old car that hadn't been working for a while, our childhood car from like 7 years prior that was still in our garage. So the other option was to fix that up and have that as my primary car. And I ended up going with that option just because I know who owned it for the last 15 years. And I mean, I liked the car, and I kind of to a fault had some emotional attachment to it. So that kind of played into it a bit, but I ended up putting about $7,500 into that car, about $5,000 initially. And then when I came here, it had no AC. So I put like $2,500 to get the AC working initially. And I had the cash. I had done 1 year of grad school working as like a graduate TA. So I mean, like, that's what money's for, right? So I chose to fix it up during then, but I only got 1.5 years out of that car before it broke down beyond repair. I was trying to hold on as much as I could, but transmission started leaking. The engine would die at intersections or going on the interstate. It was getting to be a pretty bad safety hazard. and it was really rusty on the bottom. Some mechanics wouldn't even touch it. They would say like, oh, "We're not touching that. Go somewhere else." It was basically impossible to keep up. And I was trying to do as much stuff myself, but even that, I had to junk it. I got $153 for the junkyard
Oh, man.
a year and a half after putting about 7,500 into it.
So adding all of the, like you mentioned that you had to make, the AC, among other things. How much did you pay out of pocket for everything, all the repairs?
Throughout the life of the car,
Yeah.
since I fixed it up, well, yeah, the 7,500 was main things. So yeah, I also had to get their front shocks. That was like 1,200. I did one oil change at a shop before I started doing those myself. It was like 120. I actually have it in an app. I tracked every single expense.
Man. So like a rough estimate?
Probably $9,000, I would say.
But hey, definitely, if you compare your worst and your best financial decision, definitely, the house hacking has paid off that car already, right?
I think so, yeah.
So
Definitely.
how would you describe your relationship with money?
Well, I am a frugal person, as I said before. Long term, I see it as it equals time. Like one of the reasons I'm trying to put so much into savings right now is for the hope of retiring a little bit earlier than normal to have more time with my future kids. What was the initial goal for that?
What would be your ideal age to retire?
Well, I initially started with 30, but that's not happening. I'm 29. That was like 6 years ago.
Yeah, 1 year.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
40 or 45. Probably.
I mean, it's if you compare that to the 65, that is like the standard, I guess we could put it that way. Man, it's 20 years early. There's so much, time that you
Yeah.
have gained or will gain.
I mean, my kids aren't even born yet, so if I'm able to do that, that's at least some of the years of their childhood. True.
And are you comfortable with your current financial situation?
I'd say so, yeah. Yeah, I'm able to cover everything I need, max out my retirement accounts, Roth IRA, not maxing out my 401k. That's a big limit. But yeah, I'm able to help out my mom whenever I need to, or and still put a lot into savings. So yeah, I have no qualms with my financial situation right now.
Perfect. So if you could go back in time and change one financial decision, which one would it be and why?
I'd probably say I would change me not having a job in high school that I didn't, and I kind of wished I did, just because we were struggling so much financially. Like I could have helped a little more financially if I had gotten a job, both that and built like interpersonal habits, building a thick skin. But and my younger sister ended up doing just that, and I kind of wished I had realized what she thought when I was that age, that I could help my mom with a working job at high school.
But you still helped later on.
Yeah,
in a big time.
maybe I overcompensated later on, but yeah.
You felt
No, I
unmotivated.
didn't.
No.
No, I didn't. But yes.
Alrighty. Well, now we're gonna start our "Would you rather" section. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna pull 5 pieces of paper. We're gonna do one at a time, and then I'm gonna read you a question, and it is just a "Would you rather." So it is either option A or option B. So whenever you're ready.
All right. 25.
25. All right, Aaron. Would you rather loan money to your parents but not get the money back, or loan the money to a stranger and get your money back times 2?
Parents, 100%, just because of my scenario. And I've done that multiple times. We had it as a nicety, call it a loan, but I always knew it was a gift. And I'm totally fine to do that. That's again part of my way.
Totally
Helping my mom.
So, perfect. All righty. Let's go for number 2.
Right. 22.
22. Would you rather retire at the age of 55 with $1 million, or retire at the age of 65 with $2 million? It's not the 45 that you're going after, but, 55 or 65 with $1 million difference between them.
Okay. 4% rule. I can withdraw 25,000 with the million at 55, or I could withdraw 50,000 with the 2 million at 65. That's a tough one. I'd go with the earlier one, just because that means more time with my kids. I mean, by then they might be in college or something, but that's still a value to me. And if I can make the assumption that retirement would be from engineering, but there are other stuff I could do to make more money if the 25,000 a year is not cutting it. So yeah, the 55.
All right. Let's go for the third one.
All right. 26.
26. They're on the 20s. All right.
Shake this up more.
Would you rather have a bank account for every single financial goal, or have one bank account that holds everything?
Different bank accounts, although that's pretty drastic. I have a happy medium right now. Well, it's too hard to track if it's all in the same bank account, and I like the separation of automating my savings. Like I never see what I put into the savings account into my checking account. Therefore, I can't spend it. And then I think it's easier to see the amounts of if you have like a house fund or obviously a retirement account. It's easier for me to see those numbers separately, to have separation of those goals.
Perfect. All right, let's go on the fourth one. 2 more to go.
27.
Another 20. Would you rather own 10 investment properties in the same town, the one that you currently live, or have 5 vacation rentals all over the world?
Same town. And the management is so much easier all over the world. That's a lot of tax implications with that outside the US. And 10 is better than 5, assuming they're similar rents for each of them. I just think the management would be easier if I was doing all the management.
I like the way that you attacked the question. You're more looking for the benefit from a financial perspective rather than, let's say, oh, well, like I have a house in Europe, and then I have one in, South America or one in Australia. That way you can travel, but you're more focused on like, okay, And I agree, like 10 is better than 5 in that
Yeah.
aspect. So,
Well, that's what my strategy with the house hacking is.
oh, yeah.
Ideally, I have 10 houses. I'm probably not perfect 10, but yeah, that's
Let's go for the last one.
pick.
Let's see if we get another 20.
See if we can not get another 20. 21.
Perfect. Everyone is going to be like, man, there's probably only 20s in there. Promise you, there's 30 pieces of paper. All right, 21. Would you rather receive your whole pay for the year at once or get paid bi-weekly?
It's called like dollar cost averaging.
Correct, yeah.
I mean, ideally, my mind went to all at once because then I could put whatever I would save into the savings or retirement account, and it would see more time to grow. But it also is risky from a personal perspective. Like, oh, it's all there, right? And it's very easy to overspend it. So with something as critical as a paycheck, I probably stick with the biweeklies. With smaller or like specific investment contributions, I would dollar cost average those, but probably not the
I'm quite
check.
I'm quite surprised because I thought that, you look at it like, hey, time value of money, I can just get everything up front. And, like you mentioned, from a personal perspective, a lot of people would actually spend it, but I think you would be able to like maybe utilize it a little bit better, create a budget, and maybe even like,
Yeah,
but hey,
might be able to.
no, yeah, but still a really, really good answer. So now we're going to go over.
That's kind of how our vacation time works at my job. We get it all in January, and it's up to us to allocate it over the year. And I'm not doing a pretty good job at that. So
December comes and you're like, all right, I'm taking the entire month off.
usually not. Usually I spread it out a little more than that.
All right, so
But I'd still probably keep the biweekly.
all right, we'll keep it bi-weekly then. So that was our would you rather section. Now we're going to go over the what do you think section. This one is pretty much a little bit about knowing your opinions and thoughts on money. So the same exercise, we're only going to be doing 5 papers or little, piece of paper, and we'll see what you get.
Yeah. 16.
16. See, there's more than 20s. So what do you think? What is the best way to invest money?
Okay, me personally, I have kind of a pecking order with how I prioritize my investing. I think first, I max out my health savings account, my HSA, and then that comes directly out of my paycheck. Then, actually, before that, I do my employer match to my Roth 401k. It's 4% right now. I make sure to get that 4%, then do the HSA. Those all come out of the paycheck. And then when the rest comes through after the paycheck hits my account, I put some in savings for my next down payment. I max out my Roth IRA to what was 6,500 or something like that every year. And then I throw some in a taxable investment account for future too. So 5 methods. Those are, and they're all in index funds. I feel like that's the simplest and safest way to track the performance of our country.
I think that's great how you kind of like have like your tier list, of like steps to take, how to use, your investment strategy. Really, really good.
Operations.
Or the operations. PEMDAS.
And
All right, let's go for the second one.
all right. See if we can get a single digit this time.
Let's see.
Oh, 8.
Yes, my favorite number. Let's see. What will you consider a good emergency fund?
Oh. Well, I keep mine as 6 months of expenses. I probably need to reevaluate what a month of expenses, but when I designed my allocations, I think 3 years or last changed them 3 years ago, it was around 2,000 a month. So for me, that was a $12,000 emergency fund. So I try to keep at least that in a savings account. But yeah,
Yeah, I think the same, like 6. If you want to take to the extreme, maybe 12 months. But yeah, definitely
yeah,
6 or even 3, it will give you enough time
yeah.
to look for a job.
It's a good start. Even if I were thinking of like changing careers or something risky like that, then yeah, I would want to boost that up to 12 months of expenses or more.
Perfect. Let's go with question number 3. Another single digit.
Yeah, 7.
Yeah, 7. All right. Should we rely on a 401k to retire?
Ideally, you have other sources as well. Like for me, I have my Roth IRA separately, and with the house hacking, the intent is for the income from that to help with the retirement expenses eventually as well. But just the 401k is not bad though. If that's all you have set up, that's kind of built into employee onboarding at a lot of most companies. And that's not a bad way. If it's only that, I don't see a problem with that.
Yeah, definitely, 401k is pretty good. But like you mentioned, maybe having a Roth IRA, some savings, and then your Social Security will kick in down the road. So that'll be
But
good.
if you want to retire early, you have to have something that's not tied to age 65. That's why I have the taxable investment account to just pull from too early, yeah, until I get to 65 or 59, whatever the age is.
Perfect. All right, let's go over the 4th question.
3.
3. Man, now single digits. Oh, this is going to be a quite interesting one for you.
Oh,
Is it better to rent or to buy a house?
there's multiple facets to that.
I know. Because you're a house owner,
Yeah,
but you also have tenants. And for them, maybe that's a better option than buying. But for you,
yeah.
you decided to buy. But at the same time, you see like how rent works. So what do you think?
Well, renting is good for mobility. If you think you're going to leave your city in 2 to 3 years, I think renting is very good for that. Buying a house or rental property will tie you to that state for a while, or you'll have to go through the sale process. But it does, you build up an asset in your name that increases in value over time. So that's one of the reasons why I like it, buying over renting, just because I knew I'd be here 5 years or so. So I chose to go that route.
And I think like with your situation, if you would want to move somewhere else, you could rent that 4th unit. And with those, payments, you can just go ahead and get your other house. You still be living.
Yeah, I designed it that way. Yeah, if I ever want to move out of Arizona, the property management company would keep looking after my property, and I would pay them the fee to do that. But I wouldn't have to sell it, and I could still keep getting the rents from that. and also the buying a house, you have to have good credit, and I put a lot of work into having good credit in the last 7 years or so since college. So I wanted to put that to use.
Oh, yeah. And hey, you are really putting it to use. So really, really good, man. All right, let's go over the last one. 13. Is it bad to live paycheck to paycheck?
Not objectively. I mean, you're still keeping afloat. You're really dangerously close to going into the negative or not having to lose your housing or something. But some people can't avoid that. I mean, that's what my mom was growing up. So, I mean, we still had a good childhood, all things considered. Would I choose it? No, but it's an honorable way to live still, if that's all you can manage.
Yeah, definitely. Good. So that concludes the what do you think section. And then finally, is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience? Do you have any final thoughts?
I'd probably say as far as retirement investing goes, the more time in the market is better. So the younger you can start, the more you can have with less that you put in. So like I would, in conversation, I always try to bring up, if I talk to someone in their early 20s or late teens, if you're working a job, you have earned income, you're able to put something in a Roth IRA. I always try to push that if I can, or just anyone in a job, max out your Roth IRA and HSA if that's available to you and you can manage that. And I think they're most foolproof ways to, foolproof and tax advantaged ways to have retirement savings. So yeah, that'd be my advice.
Excellent. Aaron, thank you so much for coming. Great answers. I think that the audience will learn a lot from your experience, from your mistakes, and from your assertiveness. And honestly, really, really appreciate the support. And thank you, Sam, for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please support the channel by subscribing, commenting, and liking the video. The question of the day is the following. Let me know your opinions, thoughts, comments, and constructive criticism in the comment section, and I will see you guys on the next video.